Hi, everyone. In today's video, we're going to go over a super useful tool that I recently discovered called Sejda. Sejda allows you to create fillable PDFs online for free. And I think it works great in combination with your Gavel workflows. So in output documents, you have the ability to upload PDFs as well, and you're able to tag your variables to them. So we're going to do an example of this, a very basic example, but it will kind of give you the idea of what is possible when you combine the tool of Sejda with your Gavel tool as well. So I've created a simple PDF just to kind of illustrate this point, but we're going to create one together and have this kind of same flow, but we're going to add two buttons here on the bottom. And I'll show you how you can make it to where when something's answered yes or no, that the checkbox or a radio button is checked from your PDF. So let's do that now. There are two things that you can do with this edit a PDF document, it's free button. One is you can upload a PDF file that you already have and then, update that or add things to it or change it. The other is you can start with a blank document. So if you want to use the free plan, just be aware that you can do 3 tasks within an hour, I believe. So let's just double check on that pricing here. So if you wanted to get the full plan for this, those would be the prices. But there is a forever free to use, no sign up required. And there's also a desktop app, which is pretty cool. So you can have a page and hourly limit. For example, like I said, you only get to do 3 tasks within an hour, but if you only needed to create one, then that would be fine. And then just limited file uploads and tool specific limits, but it is pretty powerful and cool from the free plan itself. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to have us actually start with a blank document and we'll just go through this process from the start. So this is kind of the editor side of Sejda, and you're able to easily insert pages, delete pages, zoom in, zoom out, and then all these buttons here on the top that we're going to go over. So we're going to just kind of play with the tool. So the first thing you can drop here is text. So you can change this bold, italic, change the font size, change the type of font and the color, and then delete. You can also add links anywhere you'd like, link to an external URL, an email address, a phone number, or an internal page. This is where we're going to spend most of our time today, but I'm just going to do a quick review of everything first. So you can do non-interactive form types of things such as text, an X, a check mark, and sort of a filled in radio button type of thing or a dot. And then the new form fields is where we're going to kind of play around the most, but you have something like a text box single line, you have a multiple line text box, you have a radio button option, you have a checkbox option, and then you have this drop down menu option here as well. You also have the ability to change existing form fields to make them editable. So it kind of unlocks it, you could say, where you can change the field names and some other information about each of these, change the border colors, for example, as well, duplicate a field, or delete. For the drop down here, you can add the different options here and allow multiple selections as well. You also have the ability to add images. So, for example, let's say this was a draft. You could do that here. You can add your own image by clicking here. And you can also add a signature. So, you can create your own signature from text, from drawing, from uploading an image, or from your camera, and you can save it or not. So here let's just do an example where we draw our signature and then we can just drop it wherever we'd like, and then we can resize it as we want to, which is pretty cool. There's also this ability to do whiteout, and whiteout allows you to cover or redact certain areas of your particular PDF. And then you can change the color, make it black, for example. You can change the width and border. You can change different aspects of it. So this is the border color. You can duplicate or delete, which is awesome as well. You can also do some annotations. So you can do strike throughs, highlights, underlines for any text. You can also do a freehand highlight in any color you'd like. So you can also do a drawing in a different color. So like this. So you can do a lot of different annotations if you'd like. You can do different shapes such as an ellipses. You can change the kind of coloring here as well if you wanted certain parts to be um, clear or transparent or have a color inside as well. You can also add a rectangle or a line or an arrow as you'd like. And then you can also do a find and replace. If you had like a lot of text here, for example, you can find certain things and replace them, find, replace, or replace all. You can also undo certain things, so you can choose which things you'd like to undo and revert. So that is how you can quickly play with all of the different features here. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're actually going to, let's just delete a couple of these things here and focus on the form fields, because what's useful about these form field options, is that when you download this document, it's already sort of unlocked for you and you can already access the variables or the form field names when you upload this to your Gavel workflow, which means that you can easily and quickly tag the fillable PDF that you created using Sejda. So let's do an example of that now, which is also cool that you can see these like lines. So it will show you sort of where to line everything up together. So in our case, we're just going to have let's say we have two text boxes like this. So I'm going to go ahead and make these editable. And what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this one. So we have, let's say, a first name, a last name, a message, and then two questions. That would be sort of like a yes, no for our radio button and our checkbox button. So let's just line these up a little bit using our sort of guide here. And I'm going to change the field property of this box to give it a name of first name, like this. I'm going to make this one last name. I'm going to make this one message. And I'm going to make this one, let's make this one are you, or let's say married, yes or no. And the value needs to be yes. And then here we'll call this one children, yes or no, and make this field value yes. So now we have these different options. We can make sure that the font size is the same for each of these, and we could make it to where it goes, the answer is centered or right or left justified. And then you have the text. Let's just make sure that's all the same. We can also add text into here, for example, for our two questions that we have. So we can just drop some text here, for example, and you can change how this looks. You can make it to where the font is different. I'm going to go with career and have the color be this sort of blue color. And we can also change the border color for these boxes. So I'm going to do that to match the color of the text. And then I'll just copy this here as well so that we can have two questions. One is I have children, and the other one is I am married. So then this will be checked, and this will be checked if the answer is yes to these questions. So it's not very like sophisticated as a form, but at least we have something we can play with and practice with. So let's go ahead and apply those changes. We can give it a new name. So let's edit this file name and make it, I'm just going to call it test Sejda form February 21st, 2023. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and download this, but you can see that you can also save this to Dropbox, save this to OneDrive, or save this to Google Drive if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and download this here to my downloads folder. And it gives you a nice preview as well that you can interact with and make sure everything is working before you download it, which is pretty nice. And then you can also share this by an email or by a share link. So let's try creating this link. So you can see that if you copy this link now and we go to an incognito window and we share this, then we can see that we can edit it, fill it, and sign it or download it. So let's say we fill it and sign it. Then we can actually fill this out, check boxes, apply the changes, and let's say we wanted to sign it. And then apply those changes and then download it from there or share it, which is pretty cool. So there's a nice flow here as well. And here is the sort of end result of our one that we made. We could have made these boxes the same color as these ones, but it's just a test anyway. So, but this is what this end result would look like, which could either be shared or downloaded, etc. You can also print, merge, edit, compress, delete, split, crop, and all of these other options as well. So it's really fun to just sort of play around with these different options so you can see what's possible. So let's go over now to our Gavel account, and we're going to just create just a quick test environment one so that we can test this feature. So from your dashboard, I would always recommend having a workflow that is specifically for testing new ideas. So I have one called testing environment here that I just sort of always keep very clean. And so after I'm done testing something, I'll just delete everything. And then I just have this playground where I can try a very specific thing. So if I'm just trying to determine whether it's possible to do one very specific thing, I don't have to mess up my whole workflow just trying to discover something new. So I highly recommend that you have something like this. So in our PDF that we're going to be having filled out automatically from our workflow, we have these couple of questions. So we're gonna have first name, last name, message, whether like, are you married? Yes or no. And do you have children? Yes or no. So let's create those now. So in your Gavel editor, in your testing environment workflow, you can just call it test. And we're gonna add a question that is a text question that says, what is your first name? And then let's just call this variable first name. And then the another text question that is, what is your last name? And then we'll call this one last name. And we can make these required or not required, but let's ask our message question, which is text area. What is your message for us? And then let's just call this message question. We can add one that is a yes, no, that says something like, are you married? And then let's do married, yes or no. And then we'll do another yes, no question that asks, do you have any children? And then we'll say children, yes or no. So we can make these required or not required in each of these cases. I'm going to make sure they're not required. So let's go ahead and save this and just run it really quick before we put in the output document to make sure everything looks the way that we want it to. So we have here test, what is your first name? What is your last name? What is your message for us? Are you married? And do you have any children? So that looks pretty good and has all of the questions that we need in order to have it feed into this PDF that we created. So if you had a PDF that you needed to unlock, meaning you didn't know the names of the form fields and you needed to be able to rename them, for example. This would happen in the case of you are working on a PDF that you didn't create yourself, for example. Then you would want to unlock your PDF here using the PDF unlocker and field renamer. So let's say, for example, we drop in the one that we used. We promise that we have the right to unlock and edit it. And we go ahead and get into here. You can see the first name, the last name, the I am married. Oh, this needs to be a message. So we can change that. Um, and then the I am married and I have children. I'm married. So let's just make that, yeah, I have children. So that was useful anyway. But that's how you would do it from an unlocking standpoint. And actually, we're going to replace the one that I made with this new one so that we can have the variables be correct. But you could also change a couple of other things too. For example, you could add a new text box, you could change the font, you could add a checkbox or a signature, and so on. So these are some different options you can do here as well using this Gavel PDF unlocker and field renamer. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this name to this and save it. So now these fields are more correct with this one being message rather than saying I'm married. Okay, so now when we go back over here, we can choose our file, find the one that we made. And as I said, the process that we just went through, you wouldn't have had to do that. I was just kind of showing it from the one that you made. So, for example, I made this other one earlier. I didn't have to go through the process of unlocking it using the Gavel unlocker, although that's a useful tool. It's just that if you've already created it and you already know the variables, you'll be able to see the variables or the form field names underneath it just by uploading it. You didn't have to unlock it. So we can tag this to a question, for example, first name or last name or message or whatever you'd like. Or you can enter text. So you can enter a value that will always be the case. You could also use functions. So, for example, if you were referring to first name, this variable, for example, instead of tagging it to that question, that's also an option if you wanted to. So, just knowing that there's different ways to do this. So, let's say we can keep this one or not, but let's go ahead and keep it. And then we can put in our test Sejda form and open that one. We can also rename these so that it doesn't look so weird. And then we can test this one. So this is I'm going to keep this just name because we already can refer to it this way as well. So now you can see the different options that we had underlying each one of these: first name, last name, message, I'm married, and I have children. So first name, let's tag that to the question of first name. Last name, let's tag this to last name. Message, let's tag this to message question. I am married, let's tag this to married, yes or no. And we want the value to be yes. So when value when above is true is yes, and value when above is false is no. I have children. We're going to tag this to a question, children, yes or no, and say select a value. Yes. So value when above is true, yes. Value when above is false is no. So let's go ahead and save this now, and we're going to, this we can get out of here. We can run this now. So let's go ahead and save our workflow. We're going to refresh and try it out. So I'm going to say my first name is Brittany. My last name is Hernandez. My message for us is, I hope you have a lovely day. Let's say love, Brittany. Are you married? Yes or no? I'm going to say yes. Do you have any children? No. Continue. And then we'll see how this turns out. So we have here our test Sejda form, which is the one that has all of the questions. So if we open this PDF, we'll be able to see that we have my first name here, my last name here, my message here with the line breaks. And then we also have I am married checked because I said yes, but we don't have I have children checked because I said no rather than yes. In our other one, which was the sort of very simple version, you can see that Brittany was input, even though I used the sort of calling tag, I call it. So you have the $ and the curly brackets around the variable that you want to refer to. So instead of me putting the variable of first name like as a tag like we did in the other ones, I entered text that used a function here and it still output the correct output. So you also see the message here. I didn't make these fonts the same in when I was creating it, so that's just why this one's smaller than this one. But you can see that everything has worked the way that we wanted it to. For example, if we wanted to combine on this one line first name and last name, we could do that like this. So let's say we didn't want it to be tagged to just one question or variable. We could combine these two. So now this would say first name and last name like this. So if we wanted to save this and run it now, let's say we go back and pretend to change something. And let's say we have two children, or we do have children in this case now. Then when we output this form, you'll see Brittany Hernandez. So that's a cool way to get to use multiple variables on the same line in a PDF using this sort of call sign, which is pretty nice. And you could also just tag it to a single question if you wanted to. That's also how you can utilize these different buttons like radio buttons and check boxes. So now we have I am married and I have children both checked because I said yes in this particular case in both instances. So that's just how you can utilize a combination of this Sejda tool, this online PDF creator and editor, and um, Gavel together in order to create some pretty interesting and fun workflows and output documents. I tend to lean very heavily towards the Word and Word add-in options just because I like it. And I tend to use Word documents more than PDFs generally. So that's just my preference. But I do think that the combination of Sejda from an online PDF creator and fillable form creator and Gavel has a lot of potential, especially since it's free and it's super fast and it can do some of these fun sort of radio buttons and check boxes and um, that you can change the colors and add images and create your just the ability to create it for free is pretty cool. So that is our lesson for today, and I hope that it was useful, and I'll see you in the next video.